Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Oh, you're lacking a beer. Sorry. You also?
No, I'm all good.
Go and play some pot and come back.
Yeah, just grab a pot if you want.
Yeah, I might go.
Okay.
That's Pat.
So
What?
Pat's just
That
getting a
was Pat.
beer. We're just getting into the spirit of this. We've just all rushed in here to do it. Thank you all for turning up today to do the rum tasting. I know we're having beer right now, but we're getting preparation for tomorrow's.
Knowing the boys are enjoying this. Also
Yeah, actually they're probably drinking beer as well, actually, to tell the truth.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, boys. Actually, you've got to put your phone in here, the messages on there to send.
If they love us.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, but she's kind of expecting it.
Doesn't sound good.
Sorry. Oh, it's 2 minutes up the road, but it doesn't seem to be a problem.
Alison.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
See you guys, I'm going to do a delivery.
Right.
Gonna have to delay the bar opening by like 10 minutes.
That's right. So, so we're actually going to go through rums today. This is a rum tasting. Half expecting the rep to turn up, but I see you decided not to.
No. Where are you, Brock?
Yeah, Brock, come on. You said you're going to be here. That aside, so we're going to do a range of rums. Everything from starting with stolen rum, going on to Matusalem 7, English Harbour 5-year-old, and Matusalem 15. So, starters, just quick history of rum. So, essentially, rum. If you look at the historical side of it, the word rum has been used to identify as sugar-based spirits, all the way back to, I think it was Sanskrit. They actually had it something like 8th century BC or something. It turned up in there, but really rum just started really finding its way back in the 1400s. They were producing a sugar cane or a sugar spirit, aguente, and then they actually went on from there to develop sort of the style which we'll go through now, because what actually happened what was that?
George Malik
Oh.
commenting, where are you, Brock?
Yeah, that's a good question, George. Hey, how you going, George? I haven't seen you in ages. Did you get your Cantillon allocation? Because it came in and went out so quickly out of us.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, so anyway, rum started going through.
Brock Hartley is watching.
Oh, that's
Very
good.
good of him.
That's nice to see, bro. Excellent. That's good. Good to see he's watching. So, so anyway, back to what I was saying. So at the time that particularly the islands around the Caribbean were being used for sugar cane harvesting, sugar cane, and the slaves discovered that the remainder from processing sugar cane is molasses, that you can actually ferment that, distill it, and actually turn it into a spirit, and that's what traditionally rum started as. Ironically, once it was found to be that and how accessible it was, the British Navy changed from using, ironically, French brandy as their drink of choice on ship to rum, because they owned, or they had access to the distilleries. And in fact, I believe there's a guy doing a blog on the history of rum. I was only talking to someone 2 days ago about this, where they said that Australia even plays part in the British naval rum production, because when the British Navy left, they'd actually find different way stations to stop and replenish their supplies. That included rum, and Australia actually had a bit of a hand in the English naval rum styles as well. So, knowing that an English naval rum was essentially a 57% alcohol rum, or what was known as proof. Okay, so the way you'd call 100 proof was 57%, and you'd test that by mixing rum with gunpowder, and if it was still light, that was actually 100 proof. So yeah, that was an interesting little run through. So, as you may or may not know, the Caribbean was settled by particularly 3 major colonising groups. The British for one, Spanish, the French, and the Dutch. Not so much the Dutch were there, but they I'll talk about why you don't use they don't have a system for their aged products, spirit products. And then the Portuguese actually did South America. So when it comes to it, you've got the British decided to classify their rums or age their rums the same way they do Scotch.
Yeah.
So therefore, in Antigua, which is where English Harbour's from, 5-year-old means the youngest rum in that is going to be 5 years old.
Yeah.
Whereas Spanish, Matusalem, for example, which was originally based in Cuba, the average age of that, or the Solero age of it, is 15 or 7. The French one has a thing called agricole and industrial. Agricole being a production of what's the word for it? Basically, they don't want to do that. Yeah. So it's a pressed sugarcane juice, whereas industrial is actually used as molasses. So an agricole and an industrial are a little bit different. So
They should brew the molasses rather than...
yeah. And then finally the Portuguese, and they actually have vintages as well. They can even do a vintage. So they'll do a vintage rum or a vintage agricole.
So they can get more than more crops out.
No, so as I said, this one, like a lot of these are blended together. We'll talk about the production of it, but that, for example, is the youngest rum that's 5 years old. This is a blend of a whole bunch of different rums, but the average age being 15.
Yeah.
The average age of that is 15 years old, and that's through a Solero system that they work with.
Yeah.
Whereas with French ones, you can have a vintage one, but it's all out of that same vintage.
Yeah.
And they age it for, say 1981 to whenever it gets disgorged, and they'll actually call it a vintage age to it. But there's also blended and agricole and industrial starts working into there. Portuguese decided to skip the whole molasses and just going off the straight sugarcane juice and created a thing called cachaça, which is heavily drunk throughout, particularly Brazil.
I've heard the name.
So cachaça, it's actually got a bit of a bad rap. So a lot of people have had cachaça in cocktails, and it's a great little cocktail mixer. I got my eyes opened to cachaça because I always thought cachaça was fairly unaged. You know, it just made to be drunk quickly. And in fact, there is more cachaça produced and drunk in Brazil than there is vodka in the world.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's exactly the words I use. Is like, I didn't believe that stat, so I had to look it up, and yes, that is true. But the thing is, though, they actually...
Russians are slipping.
Yeah, the Russians really... But yeah, it was really funny that cachaça, they make so much of it and it's drunk mainly in-house or mainly in country. So it is...
It's a cheap way.
It's quite inexpensive because they don't have the same taxes, but it's the population drink it, and that's what they drink every way. But it's also, you can get different expressions of it. So you can get barrel-aged expressions. And in fact, Rochelle, Ziggy's wife, she's from over there, she brought a bottle of cachaça in. And I tried it, and it had oak, it was aged, it was an aged one, it was a 5-year-old. It was actually really good, and I thought it stood up to a lot of the other rums, whereas a lot of cachaça I've had is very, you just taste molasses and a burning.
Yeah.
That was it. It was very
alcoholic.
alcoholic molasses. It was quite painful. So what we're going to do is, I suppose we'd better finish the beers. That's a nice little palate cleanser. So, firstly, we're going to try the Stolen.
What's the new beer on?
Oh, yeah.
The Bock. Yeah.
Heads of Noosa.
Heads of Noosa Bock. Yeah.
Off the tap in the bar.
think you need
Bloody
four.
excellent.
Rightio.
We're having Brock's one as well.
Yeah, Brock's as well, just to really dig that one in there.
I even wore this stolen shirt.
Yeah,
Just for Brock.
we try hard and he just doesn't do it, you know. Anyway, so to give you a quick thing, what actually defines rum? So the definition of rum is a sugarcane based spirit that has been distilled. It must be aged on oak for 2 years minimum. So even white spirit is aged on oak and then charcoal filtered to remove the colour generally. I've heard different things that some don't age it on oak, or they age it on oak that is so big that gets no infusion of colour or flavour, or so old. Again, it doesn't really. They're not saying new oak; they're saying oak.
Yeah.
So that's how some rum producers, and I won't mention any names, actually managed to get away with calling their rum
Yeah.
when really it has seen essentially no oak. Mainly it's so old and so large that, you know,
It's opening up to start with.
yeah. But there's
So what do they do then? Just add caramel and colouring and...
that's what they do.
Get
So
some
we'll
flavours.
talk about caramel and colouring shortly. So this is Stolen Gold. Now Stolen is a little company out of New Zealand, or the guys in New Zealand anyway. They source the spirit for this from Trinidad and Tobago. It is generally considered a bit of a mixing rum, which means a rum that usually benefits from having a mixer. That being said though, lovely caramel nose, got vanillins all over it. It's gone through it's gone through cheese and ex-whiskey charred oak barrels. I'm not getting much charriness out of it, but it is getting certainly smooth and, you know, butterscotch.
Definitely so.
Yeah, a very creamy style. I don't mind it neat. It's not particularly. The alcohol is 37.5%. In some countries, I believe 40%. It must be 40%.
Is tax bracket or?
Yeah, I think in Australia we drop it down to that less than 40% to avoid the taxation.
Yeah.
Excise.
Because we got heaps come through at 37.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've even got bourbons at 37.5, which bourbon
Yeah.
is legal to make a bourbon under 40%.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's what I'm sort of saying, is that sometimes.
Yeah, Warwick, this is number one of the four.
Yep.
So we wanted to know. That's number one.
What? Stolen Gold. This is number one. Yeah, so the thing is, this is essentially a good idea of what a basic rum should be. And the reason I'm saying a basic rum should be that is because a lot of times I have been given rums in Australia that have been not even up to the standard, nowhere near the standard. They've been really methanol-y and quite intense.
Yeah.
The flavours have been really like charred, like not even charred oak. It's just wood.
Yeah.
Very unpleasant actually. This has actually got a nice little bit, as I said, it's got a bit of butteriness to it, creamy,
Doesn't burn.
smooth. Now, whilst it's still got a little bit of burn in the back there,
Yeah, but nothing.
nothing
Nothing
like
like some other rums.
it did get awarded a double gold in the 2010 San Francisco Spirits Competition, which is pretty damn impressive for a $40 rum. That's very impressive.
When did they start making Stolen? Do you know?
Actually, I couldn't tell you. We should ask Brock.
Hey, Brock, if you
Hey,
know,
Brock.
let us know.
Yeah, that'd be good. Then, Brock.
When did they create this? When did it come out?
Well, we've had it in store for 3-4 years now.
Yeah.
So I'd say before that, at least a couple of years before that. And the guys, what they do is, so when it comes to distilleries all throughout the Caribbean, and there is a push at the moment from some people to really stop this happening, but there's a lot of trade throughout all the distilleries. So really, you've got several major distilleries. The Demerara Distillation Company, which is in Guyana, which produces like El Dorado and a whole bunch of other expressions of rum. Then you've got places like Jamaica, obviously, where you've got the distilleries that produce Appleton and Mount Gay and places like things like that. You've got quite a few in Saint Martinique. You've got a couple in Antigua. Like there's only really one major one that I knew of in Antigua. That is the Antigua Distillery Company, which produces Cavalier as its base one, and then English Harbour as its better ones.
Plantation.
Plantation.
Plantation dark out there. I really like it.
Well, the Plantation is a special thing. So that's Cognac Ferrand, a French company, who is doing essentially what Stolen is doing. They're going over and buying rums from those areas.
Yeah.
And they're keeping them fairly much a single expression unless they're blending them to make some of their lower end sort of stuff. So you can buy Nicaraguan, Jamaican, etc. And they age those in cognac barrels as well over in France. So they're putting their own spin on it, which at this point now, this is where some of the rum industry is getting a little bit annoyed because you're buying stuff from over there, aging it over here, claiming it to be Trinidad and Tobago. Stolen isn't claiming to be Trinidad and Tobago on the bottle, I'll say, but I know that that's where they buy the majority of their rum from, and it says on their website that it was purchased in Trinidad and Tobago, the two islands there. So, whereas, if you're a producer of rum in Jamaica, and you're producing rum in Jamaica, and you suddenly see a brand that's got Jamaican rum, and you've never heard of it before, you get a little bit indignant about it. I can understand that. But there's a big push at the moment to try and say that the rum must be distilled, matured, and bottled on that island to be claiming of the classification.
Yeah.
The problem is, though, that's never going to happen because too many companies buy from the Demerara Distillation Company, they buy from the Demerara, the Antigua Distillation Company, the Jamaican Distillation Companies, and they'll blend their own rums together. And in fact, probably one of the best expressions, or the best examples of that is Gosling's. Bermuda has no sugarcane industry. Well, it's no real major sugarcane industry. But they have produced rum in Bermuda for ages because it's a stopover point for the ships. That's one of the major landing points. And one of the trade items was rum. So, of course, they blended their own rums, and it became, Gosling's became particularly a fascinating story, and it's a brand that has existed now for, I think, about 100 years.
But the ships don't pass now, they just have to go and buy it themselves.
Well, they organise it and buy it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, all of these companies do. Because if you're looking for a more fruit-driven, fruitier style of rum, you get Jamaican. If you want a bit more austere, drier style rum, you might go for a Antiguan. Not Antiguan, sorry, San Martin.
Tim Smith says hi.
Hey Tim, there you go, mate. Is that Tim Smith? Oh, that's our Tim Smith. So I thought it might have been Tim Smith, the winemaker.
No, it's your Tim Smith.
It's my Tim Smith, yes. I was going to say that Tim Smith, the winemaker, just sent me a thing saying that he's back practicing with his band again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so again, they're trade rums religiously and blend rums. So the idea of actually making it 100%, this is what the rum is, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I suppose this kind of cutting that edge with your national product. Well, probably what the national product is for Jamaica at the moment. Like, I can't think of any other product that comes out of there.
Weed.
Yeah. Well,
bobsleds.
Bobsleds.
Yeah, the tax on that is probably pretty good. But yeah, like if you want to kind of protect your national product, but then they kind of shoot themselves in the foot by doing it. So it's catch-22.
They could make a fortune out of storage space. They were buying it and it was being stored, intended for.
Well, hold on.
But then don't they bring it back and age it in
the barrels in their country?
Yeah, in France. So
in Cognac Ferrandas, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So this is where it gets a little bit, and unfortunately, rum. And I had this when I was doing my training. Rum is actually one of those weird ones where you go. So this rum is particularly dark. So if you have a lot of oak on it, you'd assume.
Yeah.
And you taste it's really caramelly, really sweet. It's got lots of big flavours to it. There's an additive called E150, E150A, I think it is in fact. And that is actually the colouring agent, but it also brings a lot of flavour to the rums as well. And there's no limit on what you can put in there.
Hi.
You don't use much, like you use very small amounts. So rums, can be coloured to look the same. And it's very rare that a company does not colour their rum. A lot of them say we don't. But the consistency of the coloration that goes through the bottles is just too insane.
Yeah.
So when you see bottles of rum from the same company, and they're all lined up, and you're getting 300 bottles out of a barrel, and this produces 100,000 litres a year, you'd have a major discrepancy of colour throughout it. They obviously do add it because consumers expect their rum to look a particular type.
They want consistency.
One of the things that I was told is said that if it's in a green or a dark bottle, and this is for scotches and rums, if it's on a dark bottle, they're not really that concerned about colouring.
Oh, yeah. So
because you're not looking at it, it's not selling it by the eyes, but clear bottles.
Until you pour it in the glass,
Until you pour it.
and then you'll be, hang on.
Yeah.
Well, even then, you haven't got something to compare it to. So
exactly.
So I'm
going to steal this bottle from you then. So if you're wondering why we're drinking it straight, it's not because we're hardcore drinkers, but we actually do want to evaluate the rum. I'm sorry, I'm drinking Brock's.
That's Brocky's. Stolen started being hand sold in Auckland in 2010.
Oh, sweet.
And that came from Purple Pallets.
That came from me. I am actually in two places at once.
I see.
That's actually because my wife is she's googling for me. I love you, Roz. Oh, you're gonna have to push down. By the way, just to give you a heads up, I didn't say before, but Pat is our novice drinker, which is kind of not true because he drinks probably more than I do.
He's practiced.
He's practiced, yeah. Dan is generally called the knowledgeable one, but because he's been drinking rum for at least a decade longer than I have been, and you're probably the know-it-all this time.
I have been conversing. It's been a long time since I actually indulged in rum.
So yes,
it used to be Bundy only.
Yeah, oh my lord.
But my palate definitely developed.
Has developed a lot since then, yeah. Why do you still go back to Bundy?
It still happens. My friends in Brizzy, when I'm with them.
Stephen Collins.
We'll knock over a couple of bottles.
I still dry reach when I pour bottled Bundy.
Oh really?
Yeah, the smells is going to hold me.
You love me, I love Google.
Oh yes, that's good, thank you. Now we're going to go on to the Matusalem 7, this is number 2. So, Matusalem's got a really interesting history behind it, and they don't really go into it a great deal, but I had to look up some individuals who are involved in it. So, when Castro came to power, Matusalem was a major production of rum. It was them, Bacardi, and a third one. I can't remember what the third one was. But they were the big exports. And remember, I don't know, we've lived in a world where Cuba has always been that small island off the coast of America. But through the 20s and 30s, especially through Prohibition, if you were wealthy, you'd get on your yacht, you'd shoot across Cuba and have a whale of a time. It had a massive, it relied totally on tourism. And
Cigars and rum.
Tourism and rum were the two big things it did. So, it was the party island. Everyone used to go there. And when Castro took power, obviously everything went pear-shaped.
Yeah.
So, certain places like Bacardi and Matusalem both went, oh, we need to get out of here. Matusalem ended up going to the Dominican Republic. And the founders were Gomez, Salazar, and a couple of, I can't remember the other names, but the Salazar was really interesting. So I looked him up, and it seems that at the hot start of the whole thing, he was actually quite he saw which way the wind was blowing. He thought he can get in on the good side of the revolution. And actually was quite supportive of the people, because the reason that the revolution did occur was because the people were essentially treated very slavishly by all the tourists that came through. And there's a lot of poverty, but there's a lot of work as well. And he was going for a socialist agenda to try and rise everybody up. And this is what I think it's Gomez and Salazar, I think, were the two major ones who were supporters of this idea. And whilst they had a lot of issues with low paying the workers.
That's part of poverty, I guess.
And they were still pretty proactive about it. And
so they were encouraging tourism
they were encouraging tourism, but they were also encouraging their workers to improve. And when Castro got to power, everything was sort of on that knife edge of it looks like it's going to be okay, it's going to be fine, and then everything just went pear-shaped. Castro saw the ability to take over because the state owns everything.
Yeah.
They immediately said, we're going to take your distillery and all your production and stuff. So these guys realised at the last minute they'd sort of cottoned on the wrong horse and headed off to the Dominican Republic. And for years and years, Matusalem actually had the spirit of Cuba on their labels. They haven't got any more because an injunction was launched and a whole court case occurred between some of the remaining family members and some of the ones that left.
So others stayed in Cuba.
Others stayed in Cuba, yeah. And in fact, the distillery, the massive distillery that they had in Cuba was being used by Castro to produce more rum. But it stayed pretty much in-house.
So it didn't keep the name Matusalem, they took that with them.
Matusalem was a name that they were going to continue to use, but then they found it just fell out of favour, and they wanted to get away from the whole Matusalem idea, so which I thought was really good. But so
You're still
they.
drinking Brock's, though.
No, that's Brox's over here. Okay, so they were founded. Matusalem was founded in 1872 and forced to flee the Dominican Republic in 1959. So the 7-year-old is actually a fairly new expression that they've put in.
It's really a forward. It's almost honey.
Yeah, honey, cinnamon, lovely vanilla, a touch of caramel through it running in the back. That toffee more than anything else. It's actually quite nice. There's a little bit of spice in there as well, which I quite like.
The nose has definitely got the extra alcohol that the style
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is 40%.
yeah, but that couple of percent makes a big
Oh, it
difference.
makes a huge difference. Okay, the name Matusalem actually also is from the Methuselah out of the Bible. So the Spanish translation of Methuselah is Matusalem, the guy who lived to a very ripe, long age of 996 years old.
Because he drank rum.
Because supposedly he drank rum. That's not quite any Christians out there. I'm terribly sorry. It's not quite true. But yeah, so that's where the name comes from. But the cheese does go well with it.
I think the cheese does. It sort of cleans away off the
What
palate.
was it? A smoky
Just the smoky cheddar.
cheddar? Yum.
Because I wasn't sure how. I mean, obviously toffee goes well, but
Yeah, we were talking about classic matches for rum, and we came up with some great meal ideas. But Dan went down to Maloney Sweets. And
sweets on maple.
Sweets on maple, and picked up some fudge for us, and some chocolates, and some smoked cheddar. It was yum.
All that lighter coloured fudge.
It,
It melts on your tongue.
See, you're not just getting a rum tasting, you're getting everything. So, anyone, again, they sort of developed this rum to be, is it sort of an entry level sort of area, is it, or?
They're 7-year-old.
I'm trying to think, because they've got the Classic O, which is a 10, and 7. Do they have a 5?
We have had a 5 on it.
Yeah, I think it was a 5.
before.
Yeah,
What's the price point for that one?
for $50, I think it is.
Alright.
And this is what, when you start looking at rums, a lot of the times, okay, so if you want to convert rum to whiskey and the idea of it, approximately, you can produce a similar amount of spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, it's cheaper because the amount of action that goes into production of it is a lot less.
Yeah.
So molasses isn't, when they process sugarcane to sugar, molasses is the leftover waste product essentially, and then taking that and converting that into a rum. So it's a really good add-on to a sugar production. So therefore that'll cut the price a little bit. But the other good part about it is when it's aged in oak, the aging process in comparison to Scotland is 3 to 1. Which means that if you like drinking your 10-year-old Scottish whiskies, you really only need to drink it's a 3 to 1, so a 3-year-old rum. And you're going to get a similar thing because in Scotland, the barrels, there's not a huge difference between the summer months and winter months. And even the day and night can be quite, not that much different. So you've got the barrel, when it gets hot, expands out. It's what literally breathes. It expands out, draws rum into, or draws the spirit into the wood, and then when it gets cold, it contracts and pushes the spirit back out of the wood. And that's how you get that colour going into it. So essentially what we're sort of looking at is in the Caribbean, where it's hot, cold, it expands and contracts a lot more, whereas in Scotland it doesn't expand and contract quite as much. So it's a 3 to 1 ratio. So if you only drink 30-year-old Scotch whiskey, you can drink a 10-year-old or a 10-year aged rum, and you should be getting the same amount of wood component into it. However, the base product is so radically different though.
Yeah.
You are going to be seeing something completely different.
That's what I was saying. Matusalem Green Reserve 15. Matusalem Green Reserve
18. Reserve
23.
10, Platino, Solero, and the extra Añejo. Oh, So yeah, they essentially put this one in there to.
I didn't wear my glasses today. Obviously, you can read it from there.
I can read it from
better
there.
than I can.
I can actually read it from there. That's really impressive. So,
but the thing with rum is like I was always amazed with rum because, like I, as most people did, had a bottle of Bundy to myself when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Swore off it, never touched it again. The smell still to this day makes me want to throw up. But then
you have tequila stories as well, don't you?
Oh yeah, everyone
Excellent.
does.
That's good.
Yeah, but yeah, actually a few like local customers at the bar have put me on to like, especially the English Harbour 5 year.
Yep.
Like just drinking it straight because I found it in a warm glass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a warm glass, it just makes the aromatics just kind of stand out. Like yeah, it's really nice.
So yeah, if you do warm your glass, and I would recommend getting those sort of big brandy balloons for this. If you do warm your glass, it does make all the volatiles or the alcohols come off and fill that glass up. You'll get a lovely snifter of that. You'll smell the oak, you'll smell the vanilla, you'll smell the cedar, you'll smell the nutmeg and cinnamon, and all those products that are made into it. And it's really quite lovely. And in fact, it's a good way to drink it, but it's also a way to get hammered really quickly.
Is it?
Oh yeah. Absolutely, because
you tend to fill the glass.
No, because you're sniffing it, goes straight through the throat.
Oh, right.
Get drunk.
Because like also like the Zacapa and yeah, all those kind of ones. Like once you get into the high ends of rums, like I find like whiskey's like a good one because like it's easy to break into the market. Like you can start buying good whiskies at about like $55 to $60 a bowl. For rum, like that's $60 is like the bare minimum you'll pay for like
a good rum.
Yeah, like a good drink by yourself.
I don't know because you see, this is what we. So if you're looking at whiskey, that $30 to $40 bracket that you're looking at whiskies, that's on special even at $30 to $40.
Well, that's like Grants and.
Well, that's where your blended whiskies.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a mass-produced blended whiskey. It can be easily drinking, good for mixing.
It's a sugar.
And Chivas is between 40 to 50. So again, it's really single malts. If you're going for a blended whiskey, you can get some good ones under $70. If you're getting a few, there are a couple of single malts, not many, a couple, but about $50 to $60. Otherwise, they're all blended. So you're looking at a production of.
It's like Monkey Shoulder.
Oh, Monkey Shoulder's 59, I think it is, something like that.
Yeah.
But again, you're getting a blend, be it a pure malt blend or a blended whiskey, where.
Okay, rum tasting just went to hell.
Well, no. There is a reason. I haven't tangented off it yet. So, under that point, you can get a good blended whiskey. But the thing is, you can have straight rums. Start at $35 to $40, and then go up from there. And I find that the price point on a single malt whiskey, which a good single malt whiskey generally starts between $60 to $70. So therefore, what you just said is a good rum starts at $60 to $70. But then the most top end, ridiculously beautiful rum that I've ever sold, maximum $480
for a bottle.
For a bottle. The most expensive, ridiculous whiskey I've ever sold is $1,900 a bottle.
Jesus, what was that?
That was a Port Charlotte limited release, or the last production that they did. It had been in barrel and Gordon and MacPhail for however long they bottled it up for the customer and put it out. But again, I think the price point for rum sits in a smaller category margin than the price point for whiskey, which is just so broad. So I think value for money wise, I reckon rum is probably up there with it. Especially as you're looking for something with an intensity of flavour, and you can get some whiskies that are a bit banal. I don't like to think any whiskey is banal, but sometimes you can get a few banal ones.
Well, I'm thinking like if I was to sit down and have a whiskey by itself, like I actually really like that Matusalem one. And I could actually just sit down with a few bits of ice and then just drink that by itself and be pretty happy.
A lot of people don't like to water them down, but I prefer them chilled. So I
just like a couple of bits of ice and then, it's a bit colder.
This is Australia.
We're drinking.
We just like pausing.
Pause for the cause. I would expect rum to be cheaper to make and produce since you're using it off the back of the sugar industry. Rather, when you're talking whiskies, they got to especially buy that.
Yeah,
especially
and then the market on them seems high because the top end market's higher. So
it is.
Yeah,
and there are more.
That's why pirates like rum, I guess.
Ah, yeah. Oh, yes, the joy of that. Rightio. So here we go. Here's a couple of things for you. Why or what was rum mixed with water called? Through the British Navy, you had a tot of.
What was a tot of rum?
Yeah, but it's a tot of rum, but it was grog.
Tot of grog.
It was a grog. So
water.
Grog comes from. Water and rum makes grog. In when the English privateers, particularly English and Spanish as well, but the English privateers, when they decided they didn't need the letter of the mark anymore to go forth and raid ships anyway, they actually started drinking a mix of rum and a juice, and they called it bumbo. There's something you probably wouldn't use the term for anymore, but bumbo is another one that they came from. Actually, the name
rum and like orange juice or just
it was
generic
a generic juice. Generally, it's pineapple and other sort of tropical fruits that they did. They made up and sugar syrup as well.
I'm gonna add that to the
bumbo thing.
Yeah, bumbo.
Mel's watching as well. Mel Llewellyn.
Oh,
hello.
How are you?
No, she drinks Black Douglas, but
yes, I know.
you have to turn her into a rum drinker. Actually, she used to be a rum drinker.
Ah, yes.
That's known.
So but that's the history of the Caribbean, particularly around the Spanish Main and places like that. A lot of the English privateers who were English Navy, that had their rum tot every day.
Yeah.
They would actually, obviously, without the letter of the mark, become pirates, and they continued. And that's where the rum tradition for piracy came through, because a lot of times they were English privateers.
Yeah. That's where Captain Morgan actually came from.
Yes.
Captain Morgan was he was given backing by the English crown to go and raid lanes over there, but not under the British flag. I was actually reading.
Steal rum.
Steal everything.
No, just anything in the Caribbean, and he did really well to a point where he actually bought himself an island, bought himself like a presidency on the island.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually reading a little thing on it the other night.
Oh, no.
Is America an island?
It may as well be.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's in flames at the moment.
It's Mad Max post.
It's mad. Yeah, I was going to say, I never thought I'd be dressed like this for the the apocalypse, really. So, I will unashamedly say that my favourite drinking rum at the moment is English Harbour 5 Years, so I am going to be ridiculously biased.
Okay. Well, I've got Kevin Sweeney sitting on the shelf at home, so...
Yeah, that's a good one too, though.
And Puss's...
Yes, actually we've got Puss's coming back in.
Oh, nice.
So...
I've had that for a while.
Yeah.
So... Will they fill my decanter?
I'll ask. So, from Antigua, which was settled by the British, but then over the years, the locals ended up buying the distillery. There was a grouping of guys who bought the distillery, and they formed the Antigua Distillation Company. And to try and to celebrate the heritage and association they had with the particular British Navy, because they used to produce quite a lot of British naval rum there, they actually called themselves English Harbour to give that association. They produce English Harbour 5-year-old, so therefore the youngest rum in it is 5 years old. English Harbour 10-year-old, which means the youngest rum in that is 10 years old. And they have, when Aruba and Antigua actually got their independence in 1981, they produced a special rum, a very, very special rum, which is English Harbour 1981, and we have had that previously and sold some of it.
I recall it.
Yeah, it was an in and out thing, obviously. But again, very, very special, very limited release. So that was they're the three expressions of English Harbour that they do. So the 5-year-old is actually probably my favourite rum on the shelf at the moment. I have had Kirk and Sweeney's. I do find that a little bit more caramelly, to the point of being quite caramelly. This one though, just on the nose, you get prunes, Christmas cake,
prunes. I'm not getting prunes.
Oh, I'm getting prunes.
Yeah, I don't get prunes.
Oh, I do. You know those sweet prunes that you used to get with prune syrup?
Nah, my mum wasn't that mean.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, it's not.
Old man talk. We eat prunes every day.
Yeah. This is not ridiculously caramelly. This is.
No.
It's a lot more towards whiskey than it is towards those caramelised rums. So I know a lot of guys who drink rum really love that caramel toffee expression, and there is caramel and toffee in it, but it's still quite dry. So it is not actually a really rich, sweet style of rum. It's got spice. It's got cinnamon, nutmeg, which are the sweet spices that we normally have. It also has just a touch of those dry spices as well, and I just think it's a great rum. For me, it's can be either. They actually say to mix it, but I don't think it needs to be mixed. I prefer it straight.
That by itself.
Rose loves the vanilla.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rose loves the vanilla in English opera.
Yes. Oh, it's just. You just sit here and smell it all there.
Supposed to breathe in a spirit, really. Not
So well, actually, there's a couple of ways that we talk about when it comes to evaluating spirits. So one of which that I've learnt from a Scottish girl is you have to suffer the pain to enjoy the spirit. So you take 5 big sniffs to get your palate used to the fact that it's really high alcohol.
Warwick Green, English Harbour is.
If you're a I was going to say if you're a cocaine addict, it'll work really well for you.
No, not Warwick Green. Warwick Green said he likes it. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. No. So that's where you actually get used to the idea of high alcohol. Another way, this is done by a professional judge. He said his first thing is he takes a sniff by opening his mouth and breathing through it, drawing the air in naturally through your nose. Therefore, you're not getting a massive amount of alcohol in one hit.
I find I get more of the flavours doing that way rather than that burn your nostrils out.
Yeah, I did the open mouth.
Yeah, that's where I get the
So you stick your nose in and literally breathe in and out of your mouth. So, however, he also does say though that after you've done that a couple of times and do a taste, you run it all the way through your mouth. Enjoy that little bit of burn that's left in there, just to give all those spicy notes that come to the fore. And then he sticks his nose in and draws a big note. Because your nose and palate is used to it, then you can get the flavours. They're the 2 ways that I've been told to do it. And I quite like both. Well, because I'm snorting alcohol essentially.
Just me breathing in 5 times that deep gets my head.
Yes. Also, don't be afraid to have a little bit of water between it. It's good to revitalise the palate. But
Finding the chocolate and the sweetness not actually working for me with these rums. The cheese actually works better for me.
Actually, I will say the cheese is working really, really well. For me, the chocolate works really well for the stolen places and things like that.
One.
Yeah, the lighter ones. In fact, rum comes in a myriad of different ranges. Like you've got gold rum, which essentially all these are gold rums. Then you've got white rums, obviously, which are white. As I said before, they're rums that have been aged on oak and then charcoal filtered to get rid of the colour. You've got white, gold, dark rums. Now they're more traditional British Navy rums. Really, really heavily molasses and high alcohol. And then you've got spiced rums, and this is a category that has exploded. And I really wanted to do a spiced rum tasting. In fact, before all this malarkey started with COVID, we were going to do a full rum tasting on spiced rums and these rums. Just to sort of show what spiced rums can do, but we might have to do a separate one just on spiced rum.
I don't think anyone will complain.
No, I don't think so either. Because there is some, and you can't think of spiced rums as one thing. Because what actually happens is, traditionally a lot of people think of spiced rum as cinnamon and vanilla. And when you drink a spiced rum, cinnamon and vanilla, if you get stolen smoke, for example, which is tobacco and that's smoking, smoke and tobacco, that's a different spiced rum. Then you have coffee rum, like Dead Man's Fingers. That's a Scotch. Then you've got the spice rum from Ratu, which is, again, coffee infused as well. You've got coconut rums, which are spiced rums.
Well, they referred to as a spice.
Yeah, they're spice rums.
Well, the plantation dark, like that would be a spice.
No, that's a dark.
The plantation, they've got other.
They have a pineapple that's a spice rum.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
We didn't have it for too long.
It was weird.
Yeah,
I didn't mind it, but it's not something you could have.
Yeah, some people love it. I'm not a lover of it myself. I don't really like pineapple in my rum.
The pineapple rum in some sort of cocktail.
Yeah, rum punches are fine, but I mean, I'm not going to pay $85 to get a bottle of rum and then throw into a
Or
punch.
into an orange juice. Probably not.
Seems a bit redundant to me. But that's just me. If you like pouring your $85 rum into a punch, that's fine. Feel free to come in and buy it all. So yeah. Now, just actually, one of the things I'll tell you about Antigua Distillation Company. So, we talk about, particularly scotches, used in Scotland. They use copper pot stills, right? And we've talked about this previously, but they've got sort of those copper pot stills with the high swan's neck and all the rest of it. So, you've got copper pot stills and you've got column stills.
Yeah.
So, column stills are generally stainless steel. These guys, Antigua Distillation Company, has copper column stills. They have 3 copper column stills, which they've adjusted to make 5 copper stills.
Your wife.
Oh, okay. Look, so just to give you a background, I'm from Rockhampton originally. That's really all I need to say for that, really, isn't it? But they've actually started producing some rums and gins up in Rocky, at a place called Sale Yards, which is a pub that we used to go and smash up. But we used to go to the Sale Yards quite a bit and drink, and that's on the south side of Rocky. But the Sale Yards distillery, now they've opened a distillery in the Sale Yards Hotel, and their Capricorn Spiced Rum took home on April 12th at the 2020 World Rum Awards the gold for that, the gong for that.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty impressive, yeah.
Well, not that I would go there very often, but
Yeah.
we can claim it was local, huh?
That's 6 hours local, mate. That's a long local.
How far's Bundaberg?
Oh, it's only an hour, 2 hours.
No, really?
No, hour 40, yeah.
And I've never been to the Bundaberg.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the one thing I really am gutted about. This is just a little word to the Bundaberg distillery. Take this note on board. Your Bundaberg Royal Liqueur, the coffee Royal Liqueur, is probably the best thing you've ever done. Please sell it in retail.
Yes.
Because it is awesome. However, I know they won't, because that's how they get people into the distillery. It's awesome. It is a truly awesome rum. It's a spiced rum again. Now the thing is with so you've got spiced rums, dark rums, gold rums, white rums. That's as far as I know. That's
About red rums.
Red rum doesn't exist. Red rum is something in the shine. Yeah, marinara. Okay, but so yeah, these guys use copper column stills
For the rum.
for the rum, and the reason that you use copper is to actually generally draw unpleasant sulfides away, because in the fermentation process, sulfides turn up naturally. So copper is used a lot to remove the sulfides and unpleasant aldehydes, and it sticks to copper really effectively. So therefore, it doesn't get out of the swan's neck. So with the copper stills, they're doing the same thing.
So if it's rising up, it's actually
It's sticking to the thing, and therefore won't go into the final product that goes out. So it does make it a little bit less horrible flavours to it. If that makes sense.
yeah, just it'd be off type.
So with stainless steel columns, however, you essentially put it in, and those flavours can go to the top, but because it goes through so many distillation plates, it gets filtered out. But if you go through so many distillation plates, you're taking away so much flavour.
Yeah, you lose.
So therefore, you want to get rid of the bad flavours early, and that way the distillation will just keep those better
Otherwise,
flavours.
you just end up with a clear spirit.
Yeah. Well, not clear spirit, but a total, because remember, it's going to be a clear spirit at the end anyway,
Yeah.
because it's alcohol. So yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Until you get to the oak, which is the maturation part
It
after.
doesn't keep any of the colours at all from. I mean, molasses is black.
Yeah, well that's what I mean. If you do, see with dark rums, essentially that black molasses is a lesser, it's a stronger distillation that they do, but the colour is, so it's a shorter distillation, so there's not as many plates between them.
So they will end up keeping some of them.
Yeah, but it also keeps those darker colours, and then it goes into a charred barrel as well.
Yeah.
So what's your take on the English Harbour? You like it?
I love it. Like,
Those past tense, I loved it.
You loved it. It was
oh,
delightful.
I loved it. As soon as someone bought me a shot of it at the bar, like just to sip on, no ice, like just a warm glass.
Yep.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and that was my first introduction back into rum since I drank way too much Bundy when I was a kid. So it was actually really pleasant, and I was expecting a lot more caramel and a lot more kind of not chocolate, but like
Coffees.
The coffees, toffees, yeah. But it just wasn't there, and it wasn't abrasive, which is kind of what I was expecting as well.
Yeah, in lesser rums you will find a bit more of a methanol type hit, which generally means that they're trying to draw more of the spirit earlier. So your cuts, or what they call cuts, so you've got your heads and tails, and you've got a heart, and everyone wants the heart. The heart's where all the ethanol sits.
Yeah.
But if you decide to just push it a little bit this way to make more ethanol,
Take
make the
more
heart
of the
bigger,
tails.
you take more of the heads out. The heads, which is the methanol.
What's the tails?
Tails are dimethyl alcohols, trimethyl alcohols, all the heavier alcohols of the tails.
Okay.
Which you can reuse and put back in to try and draw some more out. But cheaper distillates will probably cut it a little bit earlier, a little bit earlier for the heads, a little bit later for the tails.
Yeah.
So they can just get as much as
As much as they can out of it, yeah.
Get it
And actually, one of the other cool parts with rum is there's a... So you've heard of sour mash whiskey or Tennessee whiskey, which is Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
And so one of the big parts about that is when you've got that wash that goes through the wash still and it goes into the distillation itself for the copper pot distillation, you get this product at the end. So at the end, after you've boiled it all off, you've got this product at the end. That product is called sour mash in the bourbon or the American whiskey treatment. They call it dunder in rum. So that dunder actually gets taken away and put into literally a pit. Okay, and it just sits out, and it's very acidic, but it actually gets more and more esters, more flavours to it. So in the American Jack Daniels, particularly the sour mash, they'll actually take that remaining sour mash, as they call it, out.
It should just be grain and...
Well, because remember, you've already gone through your wash stills already, and what you've got left is essentially grains and bits and pieces. You'll put that back in to the next distillation, so therefore you've got a highly acidified product there that's giving a tartness and a sourness to that distillation. So in rum, you think, oh well, it's the same thing; it's going to be at the same point, so you're going to get more tartness and sour. But no, they put it into these pits out the back in the tropical climate, and it begins to re-ferment, and then they take it from the pits that they have out the back and they add that into the rum, and it gets much more fruity flavours.
Okay.
So this is how Jamaican rum is so different from many other rums. I believe Trinidad and Tobago might do something similar as well, but I know Guyana, I don't think does. Belize, I don't think does. Mexico just certainly doesn't. But yeah, you've got all these different ways of production rum. So rum is, you can, and then of course once they've done that, they can trick the rum up afterwards. So you add dunder in to try and give more fruity flavours to it, and then at the end of it you can mature it barrels.
You're using your waste as well.
Yeah,
you get a second bite of it.
Yeah, second bite of the cherry.
Yeah.
And by the way, the heads and tails, when we're talking about those, when they get the cuts for those, that essentially does go back in to the next batch as well, because there is still ethanol sitting in there.
And then it's strained out at the end again.
Yeah, again, same thing. So you want to, they try and reuse that as much as possible, try and get more in there.
Is there a recyclability with the heads and tails? Like, is there only so long you can use it for, or do you got to...
I'm not sure what that actually means, Dick.
No agricole on tasting. No, we were talking about French agricole before. I've got some San Mantis and San Manique agricoles coming in the next couple of months, but no, I haven't got any right now for this
Fill
tasting.
me in, I'm not sure what that is.
So we were talking about agricoles being the French agricoles. Remember I said the Saint Martins and Saint Monique, they have an agricole and industrial. So the agricole being the sugarcane pressing that they do, the industrial is the molasses. So that's the two styles of that. So yeah, that I forgot what I was saying for Pat now.
I wasn't listening.
No, okay. Yeah. Good to see that staff training is working well today.
Get sidetracked.
Yeah. So this is the Matusalem 15-year-old. Now, I actually was talking to one of my rum drinking customers, and I said, so we've got Matusalem. He's like, I've had Matusalem before. He said, I'm not a big fan of the 10-year-olds. I said, okay, well, we've got the 7 and 15. And he's like, the 15 is stunningly good.
This is the 15?
Yeah, so he was quite derogatory about the 10-year-olds at that point. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I've got the wrong end of the stick. But he said the 15 was stunning. And again, you stick your nose in that. Well, A, the colour.
Yeah. So that's a lot more of the smell I expect from a rum.
Yeah.
And the golden colour.
Yeah, the golden colour, yeah.
But, yeah, it's very caramelly.
That's what I like.
Yeah, that's what you like.
I actually liked the 7 over the top of the English Harbour.
Did you?
So yeah, I actually preferred the English Harbour because it wasn't as full on rum kind of flavoured.
I like my rum.
I might just not be a rum drinker.
So,
Roz says that, yes, heads and tails for recycling.
Yes. Yep. So, when it comes to the 15-year-old,
that's good.
it's pretty good, isn't it? Sweet spice, Christmas cake, toasty oak.
Finished it pretty early, like, I was surprised.
Yeah, it's not an especially long finish, even according to the notes, it's not especially long, but everything in check, it's balanced. So, when we're looking at, I don't know, actually I'm still getting it back colour there, just the aromatics. When it comes to the 15-year-old though, we're talking not the youngest rum at 15-year-old, but what's called the Solero system. So if you've watched the fortified one we did, or we've talked to it about other times in the rum tastings that we've done. Solero is a fractional blending system. So in the Solero, you can imagine from top to bottom, you've got all these barrels on top of each other, with the top barrel being the youngest. So that's a 2-year-old rum. Okay, because that's a 2-year-old rum. You take some of that 2-year-old rum and you put it into the next barrel down, which is the 3-year-old rum. Next barrel down is the 4-year-old rum. They never ever take more than, I think, 30% out of it. So
the bottom barrel?
Out of the. So they don't add more than a maximum of 30% out.
Yeah.
Some of them do a lot less. They do 10s and 5% to that. But when it comes down to the final, so these are called Criadera. Just to irritate you, give you a Spanish name. So, you got the Solero system, which is the barrel where you're taking the rum from. So, the barrel you're actually putting into the bottle is called the Solero.
Yeah.
Above that is called the first Criadera. So, in an average of 15 years, knowing you're putting in young rums at 2-year-old, how many barrels do you reckon there are?
Wait,
so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That to be 14 barrels, wouldn't it?
14 barrels to get to 15.
15-year-old on the bottom, and then.
Yeah, but if it's 15-year-old on the bottom.
That's the average. 15.
Okay.
Average is 15. So
it had to be like 30 something?
No, it's
You only really need 3 barrels.
What's that?
As long as you've got like a 7 and a.
Yeah, but if the average is going to be 15.
Some of it's got to be 20-year-old or 30-year-old to bring the average down.
Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
Okay, well, it depends.
That's for me.
Depends whether you're making rum every year.
Okay, to give you an idea, our port barrel has been running now for 14 years, essentially. And we put 2 or 3-year-old port, so 2-year-old port into that. So therefore, 14 years plus 2 is 16, divided by 2 is the average. 8 years. So therefore, for a 15-year-old,
it would have to be kept full all the time to do that.
Exactly, that's what fractional blending does. It keeps those barrels full all the time. But they only blend once a year, or actually they blend twice a year, but once a year for the most part. to get down. So you've got a massive level of barrels running through. You weren't far off with 30.
Because is it all mechanical?
No, it's all hand.
Hand. So
it's all hand production. I've seen it done.
That's archaic as hell.
Yeah.
The bottom barrel will have to be.
There is no sizing on the bottom barrel.
So it just depends on what you sell then.
Yeah. So if
you
you've
can't
got
afford to sell so much of it to keep it at 15 year old.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. They draw from the bottom barrels of the Solero, but which is why and you can draw out of the Solero at different points. So if you have at year 5 at the 5th period era, and you've got 2 years barrel in there, so you can draw your 3-year-olds out of your 5th barrel.
As an average 3-year-old.
Yeah, it's an average 3-year-old.
Yeah, it can get very technical.
It gets very technical really
sounds
quick.
like math homework.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pat. Yeah, I know that's why we didn't go into retail for the math homework. But, that's what I'm saying, is that you're looking at a lot of production of rum over a very long period of time. So how is it that a young production, now it's not Matusalem, Matusalem has been a very long rum production. But if you're a young rum producer that starts up, how do you manage to pull out a 5-year-old rum? Or a 10-year-old rum or a 3-year-old rum? You'd have to buy
the rum from somewhere else and then mix it
in with your own stuff.
Yeah.
So whilst we are, and by the way, as I said, remember I said that trade occurs all around.
Yeah.
So if you wanted some sherry barrel aged rum, okay, into your blend of American oak aged rum, and you've got this one is 10 years old in American oak, and this one is 5 years old in sherry cask, then you've got an average 7-year-old blend.
7.5-year-old.
Yeah. So that's
a few comments there.
Yeah. So Dirk's already answered his.
Purple power. No, heads. That was.
Yeah.
Peter Foreman agrees. Definitely better than the 7-year-old.
Yep. That's far away ahead.
Your wife is up. You're in trouble. This is fantastic. Have you been holding out on me?
That's got to be for the 15-year-old.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was it. Caught up.
Yeah, don't worry, darling. It's fine.
Why?
Yeah.
Where's that empty bottle? Where's that half bottle going? To my house.
Actually, I just want to check something on this because this has got some excellent flavours to it.
This one goes really well with that dark.
Yeah, the dark chocolate goes. Yeah, it's nice with it.
So I just want to see if it's actually got, because I have a funny feeling this has got some sherry cask in here. I just have a flavour. French oak casks.
Does the grain light on the glass washer mean it's warming up or is it still up?
Oh no, that'd be warming up, so just leave it on for a bit and then wait a bit.
No, this one looks like it's just American oak cask, but that's delightful. That's really lovely.
Well, those last 3 chockies there, Pat.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's actually a rum infused dark
Oh,
chocolate.
is this from what he made with our rum the other day?
No,
this is just from Maple Street.
So we're really hoping that the rum inside the chocolate matches the rum we've been having.
I hope so.
Yeah. Like I just sniff this to see how weird it is.
Very dark.
You get a bit of that rum flavour in the back there, but when
It's
you,
not
overpowering by any
It should
stretch.
go really well this way.
Remember there used to be, I don't know if you can get them anymore. You used to be able to get chocolates, especially around Christmas, New Year's, where it was literally a chocolate and encased inside it was like a spirit. Be it Bailey's, Johnny Walker, Bundy rum, whatever it was. I still remember one of my favourite nights was New Year's Eve, sitting in a hot tub with a couple of really good friends, eating these chocolates and getting absolutely smashed.
Sounds like me and my grandma's rum balls. She used to go wild on the rum.
Oh yeah, my grandma used to as well, actually.
Yeah. Cheers, Grandma.
It's actually too strong. I can't even taste it.
Yeah.
You taste the rum. It's like, nope, I can taste the alcohol, but not the flavours anymore.
So
Cheese.
So I'm going to ask you a question then. Out of all of these, which would you buy for your mixer run, for your everyday drinker?
Stolen.
I'd probably go to the 7 myself.
Well, I'm looking at value for money, like the Stolen for $40 to $45 a bottle, which is $50 to $55 a bottle. Like the Stolen, because we use that as our rum sour mixer and like a few other different rum drinks in there. No one's ever complained.
Yep.
I quite like it.
Yeah, I'd definitely go Stolen for your mixer, but I personally love the 7. I think the 7 is a great little mixer, and it also...
Peter says Stolen.
Yeah. Ross says 7.
What's it? Oh, 7. We're going to say we only had 4 rums, how do you get 7?
You start drinking with my wife, you'll find out how we get 7.
Start working back.
Hey, no, I'm news much. But what do you reckon? Okay, so we're going to make the assumption that those two are really good for mixing.
I'm probably with Pat. I'd probably go for mixing that because this I would drink straight.
Just for a price point, I think alone, I'd go Stolen just for mixing.
Yeah, well, because remember, if I was going to mix it, I wouldn't be mixing it to get rid of the rum flavour. I would probably, the reason I use 7 is because I wouldn't put a shot and then a whole bunch of mixer. I'd actually have rum with a little bit of a mixer. Because I think the flavour of the rum is still really important, and it kind of weirds me out that we're in a society that is not keen on us drinking. Okay, let's be honest about it. It's not one of the things that society wants us to do is to drink like that level. But I would much prefer to have. I'm going home to a really fun night now. I would much prefer to have a good solid double or triple shot of rum with just a touch of a mixer. That's my idea of a mixer. Whereas I've seen so many other people putting so much mixture to disguise whatever they're drinking, and they may as well not even bother. It's actually really ironic.
But for me, like if I'm drinking something I know I'm going to mix with a mixer, then I'm buying it for price point. To a certain degree, like I wouldn't buy
mixed too.
I wouldn't buy a Bundy, like because I actually still want to taste something of the original spirit, so I'd buy something like Stolen. Like Stolen's probably like where I'd start with.
Yeah, but as a 2-year-old rum, I think Stolen's pretty good. It's a good solid rum. It actually for me is better than Bundaberg rum.
It's only the price point that puts it over the Matusalem for me.
But the number 7 for me is how it is. Now, out of these two, this is the important question. Which do you reckon?
See, I really don't know. Like
Warwick Green's got English Harbour.
Oh, I can understand that. Yeah, that's a very good call. Yeah.
I think I don't know. I love the Matusalem. It seems like more of a classic rum
sort of
style.
Yep.
But I love the English Harbour because it's just such an easy drinking and really nice flavours. So,
Dan?
Well, for me it's Matusalem. That's the style I like.
Yeah, for me though, I'm going to go with English Harbour. It's been my favourite for ages and still is. But mainly because I think I'm aiming for a bit of a whiskey sort of look to it.
Well, you can be a rum drinker.
Yeah, I am a big rum drinker.
Peter would like you to give your thoughts on Diplomatico.
Fantastic. I love Diplomatico. I love particularly their limited release expressions. They do a barbet and a kettle. The kettle is not... I much prefer the barbet. The barbet for me is what I think Diplomatico does well. Their Exclusiva, stunningly good. It does have a lot of those caramelly flavours to it, but it's not... They're not caramelly flavours coming from 150. They're actually coming from the raw product itself. They make an excellent rum. And it's one of those rums that's hard to keep in the store. The problem that we've got with Diplomatico is that they've changed suppliers just recently, and their suppliers are a bit hard to deal with in that they just don't have enough product. I have tried some of their Ambassador, which is their top-end expensive one, which can go for about $600-700. I think it is. Maybe it might be less.
I haven't even seen that one.
Might be $400.
What was the one we had behind the counter?
That was the 1981. Yeah. I have had that before, and I thought that it was a stunning rum. But it was actually far more towards the whiskey styles than it was to do with the rum styles. Yeah, you can't. Honestly, if you're looking for probably the best rum on the market, and this is just for me personally, I would go Diplomatico, the Exclusiva, hands down. I wasn't overly impressed with their Matusalem, which was like the $60, $70 bottle. I thought it was good, but it just seemed such a step down from their Exclusiva. I preferred English Harbour at the same price, like by a long way. So yeah, that was my opinion of it.
Thanks, he said.
Oh, good, thank you. I must admit though that when it comes to drinking, there's not much that I'm not going to go. Yeah, that's great.
Everything's got its merits.
It does.
Or is that just us? I don't know.
Well, no, everything does have its merits. The thing is though, like,
different palates need different things. Like
it does, and more the point, my background is not. I'm not from a highfalutin background. I'm actually like a working class kid that just sort of fell into hospitality because he hated doing pathology, and then went on from there to discover that, like running hotels. When you run venues and hotels, you spend so much time working on ridiculous hours and stuff. You don't really look at what you're selling. You just look at the GP. You look at You don't care what the price, what the taste is. You care about the price point and selling it out. And then I actually went out of hotel, went into retail, and discovered the world of retail. And everyone who's in the world of liquor retail has gone.
Try this.
Have this, try this, give this. Would you like to go and do this? When I was running hotels, I went to the State of Origin twice. When I'm doing retail, they take you down to McLaren Vale, they take you to Barossa.
They want to educate you.
They want you educated.
Stuff.
Yeah. And if you can educate other people...
And if you're going to sell it along the way,
education is how you sell things.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise you would all be stuck drinking 4X bitter.
Oh.
No, seriously.
I'm pretty stubborn.
But I mean, once if you're looking for the easiest sell in the market at the moment, 4X Gold, Great Northern, they're your two beers. And Bundy and all the rest of it, you would actually just go, oh yeah, okay, I'll just sell that, and I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, we'll cut the shop down into like a little corner in the background.
Exactly.
It's like,
But then you go into craft beer and you discover a myriad of wonderful craft beers that you are excited to get out to people. You got spirits where there's a plethora of spirits out there that you're just looking at going, oh my God, why has no one shown me this before? Why didn't someone say to me, try this, or even have a taste of this?
We had so many people in on Thursday, new customers. Like, wow, this place is excellent. Just checking out all the craft beers.
The wine tastings that we do all the time, and the reason that we actually do wine tastings is not just for us to drink ourselves silly, although that's a very good excuse, is that we actually want to get our education out there. And that's a big part of it, because the more educated consumers are, the easier it is, my job and these guys' jobs are, to find out what it is that you want. And
just to sell the product.
Sell the product.
Yeah. I'll sell whatever I'm comfortable with selling. Like, I'm not gonna tell someone to buy something that I wouldn't sell myself.
Yeah, try this nice for its gold. It's really good.
If this is your flavour, I might not like it, but I think you'll like that from what you've said so far.
So yeah, as I said, this is the whole reason we do this, and but we can only do this with your support. So thank you all for supporting us, and we're just going to have to drink Brock's, it seems.
I thought he might run up here.
Yeah, I thought he might have come up after we shamed him online. But drink well, drink like a savvy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's to come down afterwards.